Good morning. Today we're going to start on page 123 and 124. We're going to do a couple of things on there. We're going back and forth on this chapter, and we're not going to cover every single aspect of it. We will be reading some of the texts and working on some of the exercises, but we're not going to do all of them. The reason for that is that there are a lot of you, and there's no time to cover everything, and some of the exercises are not as important as others. You have to keep your focus on preparing for the exam. I have been looking at sample exams for you to start preparing. Part of your exam will include a listening portion. For that reason, it's very important that you do the TOEIC exercises that we have worked on before. If you don't remember what I'm talking about, the TOEIC exercises are those long listening passages that you have to listen and answer a question and mark A, B, or C, and then a part of it you have to listen to longer passages, and after that you have to answer a few questions. You will have some of that on your exam. You need to work on your writing skills. Those of you that when I assign an essay with 3 paragraphs minimum, each paragraph containing between 10 and 12 sentences, those of you who write 3 sentences and call it a day, that's going to be a problem, because I'm not going to be the one correcting that. Your exams, you will be a censor, an outside person that doesn't know you, that has never spoken to you, because some of you speak English and communicate in English, understand English well, but you don't want to write stuff down. You don't write as much as you speak. So you may have an advantage in being in this class and having me grade you, because what happens is then I give you a grade that's a balance between perhaps you wrote on a 2 level, but you speak on a 4 level. So 4 plus 2, 6 divided by 2, 3, then you get a 3 average. But then a person that is just going to be exposed to your writing might give you a 2, or might even flunk you if it's somebody very strict. Those lists of mistakes that I've given you, you have to be careful not to make those mistakes, because each mistake shaves off some points off your exams. You have to start being prepared for that. And reading comprehension is important. Reading a text and understanding what you read. That doesn't mean that you have to understand every single word, but you have to understand the meaning, the essence, the gist of what's being said. So today we have some reading to do, but I want to illustrate what we're going to read about with a video that I found for you, and I'm going to have a few questions to ask of you about that. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to play it with a shared screen, but I'm also going to save the link and make it available to you either on our group chat, or perhaps I'll just make it available everywhere, group chat and Canvas. And if you don't get it anywhere, if you can't access those platforms, then get in touch with me and I'll give you the link. So there's no excuse. If you don't catch it now, you will be able to watch it later. Have your books ready, because as soon as we finish this, we'll go on to the book, page 123. number 3 and page 124, question A. You will understand the connection after you watch the video. So I'm going to share screens with you now.
Greta, your first climate strike was a lonely event a little over a year ago, and in the intervening time you have sparked the interest of millions, literally, of children around the globe, demanding action for climate change. What's your message to world leaders today?
My message is that we'll be watching you. This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering, people are dying, entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you? For more than 30 years, the science has been crystal clear. How dare you continue to look away and come here saying that you're doing enough when the politics and solutions needed are still nowhere in sight? You say you hear us and that you understand the urgency. But no matter how sad and angry I am, I do not want to believe that. Because if you really understood the situation and still kept on failing to act, then you would be evil, and that I refuse to believe. The popular idea of cutting our emissions in half in 10 years only gives us a 50% chance of staying below 1.5 degrees and the risk of setting off irreversible chain reactions beyond human control. 50% may be acceptable to you, but those numbers do not include tipping points, most feedback loops, additional warming hidden by toxic air pollution, or the aspects of equity and climate justice. They also rely on my generation sucking hundreds of billions of tons of your CO2 out of the air with technologies that barely exist. So a 50% risk is simply not acceptable to us, we who have to live with the consequences. To have a 67% chance of staying below a 1.5 degrees of global temperature rise, the best odds given by the IPCC, the world had 420 gigatons of CO2 left to emit back on January 1st, 2018. Today that figure is already down to less than 350 gigatons. How dare you pretend that this can be solved with just business as usual and some technical solutions? With today's emissions levels, that remaining CO2 budget will be entirely gone within less than 8.5 years. There will not be any solutions or plans presented in line with these figures here today, because these numbers are too uncomfortable and you are still not mature enough to tell it like it is. You are failing us. But the young people are starting to understand your betrayal. The eyes of all future generations are upon you. And if you choose to fail us, I say we will never forgive you. We will not let you get away with this. Right here, right now, is where we draw the line. The world is waking up, and change is coming whether you like it or not. Thank you.
So page 123, number 3, there's a short text that we're going to read together now that actually is about what we just heard. Do you know who that is? Had you seen her before? What do you know about her? If you had to pick an opinion and say that you see her positively or negatively, how would you characterize your opinions about this person? Would you say it's generally positive? So let's get some background information first. Where is she from? Just type it so I can see that you're following this. What did she do that make her, something made her famous, made her a recognizable face, made her somebody that everyone knew? What made her a well-known figure? What do you think about the strike? Do you think that was a positive thing? Were there any negative aspects of it that you would like to discuss? I'm not going to share my personal opinion on this because it's not really important what I think. This is more about what you see in this and how does that impact you. What do you think about the things she said throughout her speech? How does that affect you, or does it affect you at all? So those are the things that I want to see. You will be required to write about that, and it's very possible that this could be on your exam. There are lots of topics. There are very, how do I put it? Lots of trending topics that could be on your exam. On our video chat last week, or rather in the beginning of this week, we talked about what's happening in the United States, for example. That could be a topic that could appear on your exam. So you have to keep your eyes open for that. And make sure that you gather information and then you put it together with your opinion. So you can show your arguments for or against something. So it's very important that you know how to develop those paragraphs and then make them into essays. Page 123. Let me show you what it looks like so you know what I'm talking about. I don't think you can see very well. It's kind of blurry, but it's an exercise that says compare, number 3, page 123. Swedish teenager Greta Thunberg started a climate strike outside the Swedish parliament in 2018. Since then, she has become a global phenomenon, speaking at the United Nations and taking part in many demonstrations. Greta makes the use of social media to connect with fellow activists and spread her message about the need to save our planet from environmental disaster. Her Facebook post on the next page concerns something different, though. Read it and then discuss the questions that follow. So first, when I showed you that speech, I was focusing the idea on who is this person? Where is she from? Why is she famous? Why is she relevant? Right? But now we're going to move on to a different issue, which is a Facebook post that she made on April 2nd, maybe last year or the year before that. Page 124. If you don't have the page, please look at our group chat. I took a picture of the page. I scanned it well enough that you will be able to read. So if you didn't take your books from home for some reason, perhaps your books are still at school, or maybe you lost them, it doesn't matter for now. You can just look at the page. It's right there on the screen. If you can't read it on the screen, open our group chat and it's there. There's a page there for you. So here is what her Facebook post said on April 2nd, either a year or two ago. Today is Autism Awareness Day. Proud to be on the spectrum. And no, autism, as well as ADHD, ADD, Tourette's, OCD, ODD, etc., is not a gift. For most, it is an endless fight against schools, workplaces, and bullies. But under the right circumstances, given the right adjustments, it can be a superpower. I've had my fair share of depressions, alienation, anxiety, and disorders. But without my diagnosis, I would never have started school striking, because then I would have been like everyone else. Our societies need to change, and we need people who think outside the box. And we need to start taking care of each other and embrace our differences. Aspie Bowers, autism. So she has hashtags on her post. This entire chapter, chapter 3, although we have been going back and forth on the pages, and I haven't really followed a linear path on it, but the whole focus of the entire chapter is challenges. What are her challenges that she talks about here? And what do you know about these challenges? Feel free to type what you know about this, because on this chapter we have talked about different people that are very well known, that have talents and are famous for certain talents, but they also struggle. Like we talked about Michael Phelps and how he was even afraid of water, but then he became an excellent swimmer. We talked about Jamie Oliver, page 121, how he talked about how he was lucky to have dyslexia. And we talked about different aspects of something that could be seen as a negative, but you can turn that into a positive. So tell me now what you saw on the Facebook post that I just read to you on top of page 124. What are the struggles she talks about? She talks about several different conditions. What are they? Type so I can see that you're following this. What do those acronyms stand for? What does ADD stand for? Tell me if you know. Yes, attention deficit disorder. So people who have that, some people are medicated, some people have other coping mechanisms to deal with that. What do you know about that? We talked about dyslexia before when we read that text about Jamie Oliver. So some people have both conditions. Some people have dyslexia and ADD. Some people are medicated, some people are not. But then what happens is that there are techniques that you can use to live with those conditions and still be able to function without problems, without major problems, that is. One of the things that I try to do when we have our classes, and it doesn't always work, but we try, we have that system where we change activities a lot. That's the reason why we change activities. We start with a text, we finish the text, we do something else. We do activities where you have to stand up. And that's a lot. Can't do it right now on online, but when we are in a classroom, when we do the human sentence, each person is a word, and then you have to put the sentence together. As soon as we get back into the classroom, we're going to do an activity where there's going to be a lot of physical energy that you're going to use. So those things help make the time pass faster and helps you focus. You only have to focus on one thing for 15 minutes, then you focus on something else for another 15 minutes, then we play Kahoot for another 5-10 minutes, then we have Quizlet, then I have you sit and do Duolingo on your phones for another 5-10 minutes. So if we change it constantly, not only people who have ADHD or dyslexia or other conditions, not only those people can benefit from it, but then everyone gets to benefit from something that doesn't require you to stay in one spot the entire time. So moving along with this, your assignment for the day. I don't want to give you too much because I know you have other subjects to look at as well. Page 124. Letter A. And then number 4. There are 2 letters A there because the first letter A I'm referring to is this one. You read the Facebook post that we just talked about, and then you answer the following question. What does she say about autism and how it has affected her? So this is the letter A I'm talking about. You don't have to do B and C for this one. So letter A refers to Greta and that Facebook post. So you do that, you send it to me, and then number 4, create, writing. What do you think are the keys to a successful life? Write a personal text answering this question. You may find inspiration for your text in this list. So, again, keep in mind when you're writing a text that I'm going to keep repeating that. I think I say this every time, but eventually it's going to sink in. Each paragraph has to have between 10 and 12 sentences. Somewhere in each paragraph, either at the very beginning or in the middle of it, you have to make it clear what that paragraph is about. I'm not talking about titles. You don't have to put titles for separate paragraphs. A text is one cohesive thing. But you have to make sure that the paragraph is about one particular aspect. So you can start, for example, let's look at this list here. You have finding true love, having children, making lots of money, being famous. So last class I had you write about your ambitions and dreams for the future. My suggestion is that you use what you wrote the last class, use that to incorporate into this and make it into a text. So you can make the first, for instance, some of you wrote on your ambitions and dreams that you want to find a good partner to marry, you want to have children, and you want to have a good job. So those three things, you can have one paragraph where you talk about finding true love and having a family. That can be one paragraph. And then you talked about having the perfect job. That could be the second paragraph. Then you talk about the job, why you decided you want that job. You can also focus on explaining what kind of education you need to do that job and what you think is amazing about it and how that can impact other people. That could be the second paragraph. Then the third paragraph, being healthy. That's one of the things on the list on number 4 there. You can talk about how it is important to be healthy. What kind of things can you do to stay healthy? You can talk about food, exercise. You can talk about having a good lifestyle, and that can be a third paragraph. And you can tie everything together on a fourth paragraph as a conclusion to all of that and say why those things that you discussed in the first few paragraphs, if you had 3, and that last paragraph can be how that makes for a successful life. So you can tie everything together in that. Or if you want to do a 5-paragraph essay, you can add a 4th element to let's look at the list. Knowing your strengths, overcoming challenges. That's one. You can talk about one personal challenge that you have. And you can develop one paragraph about that challenge. And finally, doing a 5th paragraph with a conclusion. So you don't have to do 5 paragraphs. You can write a good text with 3. I noticed that in Norwegian, you can write a paragraph with 3-4 lines, 3-4 sentences, and that's acceptable, grammatically acceptable in academic writing in Norwegian. But in English, for you to write a good essay, between 10 to 12 sentences each paragraph, and minimum 3 paragraphs, maximum 5, I would say, would be perfect. But depending on what you're asked to do, if you take an exam and it says write 3 pages, 3 A4 pages, then you have to produce that. Then you have to think about a lot more to say if you have more to write. But an essay, a standard essay, would be minimum 3 paragraphs. And a paragraph, I'm going to keep saying it because it has to sink in. 3 or 4 lines is not going to cut it. It has to be between 10 and 12. Often enough, I see, and I've been correcting your writing for a while now, so I see that some of you write, for example, sentences that are so long and elaborate and complicated that you could have broken it into 3-4 sentences right there. So this will be what you will be working on today. Page 123, you read that little introduction about Greta, and then you read the Facebook post on page 124. And letter A, what does she say about autism and how it has affected her? You don't have to answer that in a long thing, just between 2 and 4 sentences, and you answer that. The writing in number 4, take advantage of what you have already written about your dreams and ambitions. That can be your first paragraph right there. And then you write another 2. You don't have to hand this in today. I'll give you some time to work on that on Monday as well. Let's just do a couple of rounds of Quizlet Live, and then I'll give you time to sit and work on your assignment for the day. As soon as I put the code in, you can join. I really would like everybody to participate in this. Don't worry about, like, if you see that the game has started on the screen, it doesn't mean that it's already started, because I'm playing a sample game before the class even starts. I play a sample game so I can play it for you while we're doing this. So please make sure that you because I want everybody to participate in this. This is part of your class too. As soon as I have, how many people do we have? We have 16 people. If some of you are playing together, if you're sitting together, watching this together, and you're playing as a team, let me know. Let me know in the chat so that I can start the game. I'm not waiting. So if I see 14 names, it means that 2 of you are playing together. As soon as you're ready, we're going to start. You can hand in your assignment as soon as you have it ready. Don't stress over it though. And make sure that you, if you want to, you can use that paragraph that you handed in last week. That can be the beginning of your essay.